From a volcano spewing mud instead of lava, to millions of tiny red crabs migrating to the beach at the same time on an Australian island, here are the weirdest things you might see in your life. Let's get started. Some time ago, you developed a great passion for volcanology, and in particular for the most active volcanoes in the world. But choosing to study Indonesian volcanoes more closely, and while you were looking for some interesting information about volcanoes of the island of Java, you came across a volcano like no other, the Lucy Volcano. It's normal that this volcano caught your attention right away, because instead of spewing lava, this volcano actually spews huge quantities of mud. As a result, it has already caused significant material damage since it is located in an urban area. To know a little more about the Lucy Volcano, you immediately started your research, which turned out to be fruitful. Indeed, by referring to certain sources, you learned that this mud volcano appeared in 2006 following a drilling which led to technical incidents, a powerful earthquake of a magnitude of 6.3, and whose epicenter was at 250 kilometers from the zone, would also have accelerated the birth of this very active volcano. All this seems quite interesting, but you must admit that the images of this gaping crater which rejects mud, gas, and water, sometimes boiling, gave you a little giddiness. Not for long, fortunately, because you then looked into the real causes of the birth of this volcano like no other. Indeed, the birth of the Lucy Volcano provoked a great debate as for the responsibility of the man in its appearance. Would its origin be natural or rather linked to a drilling accident? This is a question that pushed you to deepen your research, but above all, it has enriched your knowledge of volcanology. You have been traveling the world for a long time, looking for rare or exotic birds to observe or take pictures of. However, when you first heard about starlings and their famous winter migration from Scandinavia to warmer parts of southern Europe, you didn't really believe it. But that didn't stop you from making the trip to Denmark to the Wadden Sea Nature Park to see up close what the park guides call black sun. Once you arrived there, your camera ready to capture the images, you waited patiently for the fateful moment. And wow, you finally saw this hypnotizing spectacle for which you had traveled miles. Hundreds of thousands of these birds started to fly together in front of your fascinated eyes, creating a kind of moving cloud, a real ballet. You had just experienced a great moment. Of course, it required a lot of patience, and you had to endure the cold. However, all that is of no importance in front of the images of this extraordinary spectacle that you have not stopped seeing since that day. Because yes, this phenomenon will remain unforgettable for you for the rest of your life. Do you like this video? Then don't forget to give us a like, subscribe to the channel, and to activate the bell to receive all the notifications and not to miss anything of our next publications. Let's continue. Do you love flowers and want to live one day surrounded by these shimmering plants and smell their sweet perfume all day long? Great! But what about having a giant flower in your home? You'll be amazed. There's no such thing as a giant flower, you may ask, no? Well, you'll be even more surprised if you take a close look at the Arum Titan, the biggest flower on the planet. Look at these breathtaking images. Impressive, isn't it? To get an idea of what it's all about, you search for images of this flower by typing its name in your search browser. And there, your curiosity is satisfied. You look at this flower, which is native to the rainforests of Sumatra, Indonesia, but which can also be found in some botanical gardens in other countries such as Germany. The research you do also tells you that the flower of the Arum Titan can reach 3 meters in height, sometimes more, and weigh about 70 kilograms. However, the flowering of the Arum Titan occurs only once every 3 to 8 years, and its duration is very short since the flower remains only 72 hours, to give place thereafter to a large leaf which can reach up to 6 meters of scale. And to crown it all, this beautiful giant flower gives off a foul odor and reminds us of rotten meat. That's right. In this way, the Arum Titan attracts flies as well as other insects that are necessary for pollination, even at a distance of 1 kilometer. A smell of rotten meat. Ugh. You are suddenly disgusted. But as stinky as it is, this flower remains beautiful, and you continue to contemplate the images, amazed in spite of yourself. More than that, you have decided to make a list of all the botanical gardens where it can be found, so that you can go and contemplate it one day. Isn't this giant flower extraordinary? In September 2018, many tourists were in Hong Kong where they had come to enjoy their vacation and have an unforgettable stay. However, these tourists experienced one of the worst moments of their lives when Typhoon Mangkhut hit the area. This deadly typhoon of about 900 kilometers in diameter, and which had already caused many victims in the Philippines too, was extremely powerful, and the images are there to prove the gravity of the situation. A spinning crane, skyscrapers that seem to sway, windows that fly away, high waves that break on the road, people pushed by the violent winds, and the hall of this hotel in China that is suddenly flooded by water. All this was incredible but true. However, in order to face this natural disaster and try to save their skin at all costs, the tourists had no choice but to take refuge in one of the shelters and wait for the storm to pass, which eventually happened to their great relief. But the fear and the worry were still there, not to mention the important damages that Typhoon Mangkhut left behind. Some of them even lost their belongings, and the dream stay they had come to spend in Hong Kong quickly turned into a nightmare. Well, everything went back to normal afterward, and the tourists, at least those who were still alive, went back home safe and sound. Well, they will never be able to forget what they saw during the passage of Typhoon Mangkhut. These appalling images will remain forever engraved in their memory. The inhabitants of Christmas Island, an Australian island not far from Indonesia, can boast of a living on a little piece of paradise, surrounded by lush green landscapes and white sandy beaches with turquoise waters. But when the rainy season comes, and some people want to take the road to spend their vacation somewhere, they can find themselves facing a not very convenient situation. Do you know what it is? Look at this. Millions of small red crabs, which seem to appear from nowhere, invade Christmas Island, indifferent to the inhabitants. The latter, and in particular the motorists or cyclists who pass by and who meet these small crabs on their way, then slow down or stop squarely to give way to these cute crustaceans. Although they are relieved and happy not to run over any of them, they may lose their patience or get angry at the idea of having to wait several long minutes before being able to continue their way. But fortunately for them, this is not likely to happen every day, as the Christmas Island red crab migration happens only once a year. Indeed, each year during the rainy season, which takes place during October and November, these crabs migrate across the island, going from the tropical forest to the beaches to reproduce, creating a red decoration everywhere on their way. And then, with time, the inhabitants of Christmas Island have become accustomed to the migration of the small red crabs that populate the island. Besides, they must feel a lot of pride thanks to this unusual migratory phenomenon that made their island very famous all over the world. This very morning, you were sitting quietly in your garden, having your meal. But as you looked up to the sky to contemplate the big white clouds, you were suddenly struck by something very colorful. A kind of halo or flame was rising high in the sky. Except this flame was not blue or orange, but rather had rainbow colors. Weird. Unable to take your eyes off this fascinating sight, you continued to observe this multicolored flame that seemed to dance in the blue sky for quite some time. A few searches on your phone later, you discovered that this flame is a rainbow of fire and learned a little more about this phenomenon. Well, it is a rare natural phenomenon whose origin is related to the spectrum of sunlight. Indeed, the 7 colors appear after the refraction of the sun ray on the ice crystals of the high-altitude clouds. This ray then breaks down into different wavelengths, which then causes this beautiful multicolored flame. Here is a good knowledge more. Nevertheless, your research made you forget to capture this magical moment. What a pity, but fortunately for you, your neighbor who had observed the fire rainbow was able to film the phenomenon and kindly agreed to share this video with you. And that's it. You now feel very happy and especially lucky to have been able to observe this rare phenomenon at least once in your life. You love reading and books since your childhood, and you dream of owning a huge library full of books? Good, but how about this? Take a look. You're surprised, aren't you? You're trying to think of a logical answer to this cascade of books falling from a window. Maybe someone got rid of all the books that were cluttering up their house. Or maybe a storm passed by and stripped this house of all its books. Anyway, all the hypotheses you thought of so far turned out to be wrong. However, a few words typed on your search browser allowed you to know that this cascade of books falling directly into the street is actually a sculptural installation signed Alicia Martin, a Spanish artist whose original works made from inanimate objects seem rather alive thanks to the wind that makes the pages turn. In fact, this cascade of books seems to be in motion. This work is located in Madrid, more precisely in the Casa de America, and is not the only one. In fact, 2 other massive sculptures in the series known as biografias, that is to say, biographies, have been created by the artist and are located in 2 other historical buildings in the Spanish capital. Each of these sculptures contains 5,000 old books. Yes, 5,000 books used for such a work. What a waste, you say to yourself. You feel a great sorrow when you see all these books piled up on top of each other. However, as you continue your research and realize that the artist has chosen knowledge to create his unique works, your pain eases and you smile again, happy to be able to contemplate this beautiful cascade of books with a new look. Well, now you suddenly feel like taking a closer look at this work. You have just discovered some strange and weird things that you can see at least once in your life. Which of these things fascinated, amused, or shocked you the most? Have you ever seen something weird or witnessed a surprising natural phenomenon? Tell us about it in the comments. And as always, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video.